got to listen to me. You know what the deal is? What we got to do is we got to go down to the religious supply store. We got to get ourselves a couple of gallons of holy water. My cousin Jerry's a priest. He can get us a deal. Ray, do you want him to take your family, kidnap them, tear their livers out, and make some kind of satanic pate? Ray, you're chanting. Ray. Ray, look. Ray. Unconscious chanting. You're chanting. I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Ray. You're chanting. Hey, once they get in here, it's over, pal.
This is the 5th annual Spooky Spoilers.
I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal. This is spoilers.
Whoa, you said that out loud.
All right, everybody. This is our maybe last spooky spoilers. I don't know. We haven't really decided yet, but we'll get to that. You'll find out towards the end of the pod, I guess.
Of the year, not of all time.
Of the year.
No, we're going to... E.T.
Someone gets to choose.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, E.T. then. I guess we're doing E.T. So, my bad. I had already forgotten.
Have you guys seen the E.T. porno?
What the hell?
That's
the one we're doing, though. Force.
Have you guys ever seen like stills from it, like with like the nudity parts censored out?
No.
Tell us about it.
Even just looking at those images, non-pornographic parts of it, it's like the most horrifying thing I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Does E.T. fuck in that one?
Yeah, it's like a girl with like a E.T. head, like a makeup head.
Does the finger come into play?
I think it does. I thought I remember there being some like long alien fingers involved. Yeah.
It went with E.T. being a woman? A female?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it was two ETs fucking. It was something weird, man.
Does he say E.T. bone home? Oh, but
bone home.
I'll watch it before we do the actual ET episode, and I'll answer all these questions.
I say we do it. That's spooky as it gets. All right, so we are reviewing the, I don't know, spooky-ish, spooky light movie, The Burbs from 1989. We're getting closer and closer to Hanks's kind of breakout as the best actor or one of the best actors in the world, but he's not quite there yet. Actually, I think he either just did Big or was just getting ready to do Big, and that was actually his first Oscar nomination, I believe. So
he had just done Big last year, and then also that came out this year, another Brett pick, Turner and Hooch. So you love Young Hanks from '89.
I do like Young Hanks. I think he, we'll get to that.
Young Hanks with big dogs, Brett style.
Is that a horse in the basement?
Nice.
But we're going to go from west to east, and I don't know, just tell us a neighborhood story. I don't know, a crazy neighbor, a funny time in the neighborhood. Josh, you can't use the gun one from the collection or whatever, but you know, I'm sure you have something else good for that. But so let's go ahead and start with Korey. Something you haven't said before, like you followed a guy home and beat him up. You know, something new, something fresh.
That's really all I got, though. I mean, this is Korey recording out of Simi Valley, California. I haven't had a lot of neighbor drama in my adult life, living in apartment complexes and having just very little to do with my neighbors. But I do have, I'm not going to make a thing of this, I promise. This is going to be my last, violent story. I really don't like talking about that kind of stuff.
Most violent on the pod.
All right. See, this is going to take a long time. All right, when I was a little kid, I was probably 11, maybe 12-ish. I had a neighbor, a couple houses down. They had a kid who was a year below me, and his name was Frankie. And this kid was an obnoxious little shithead.
Sounds like trouble.
He was kind of friends with us, but kind of not. You know, those kids where it's I don't really like him, but he kind of hangs around. But he was really mean to my little brothers, who were a few years younger than him. And he would bully them, specifically when I was not around. So one day, I caught up with this kid, because he would always do something and then run away. He was very much like that. He would do something and he was quick. He'd get the fuck out of there before I could ever catch him. One time I caught this fucker So I think he broke my brother's thumb or something like that.
Oh my God.
I might be misremembering,
Whoa.
but it was something that like really fucking pissed me off that he did to my brother. I caught him on his lawn. I tackled him and I just fucking wailed on this kid. Like I fucked this kid up. It was talked about in my family for like years, actually, this event. But that wasn't really the end of it because after that happened, I like got really scared and I like ran home and like locked myself in my room and was like really scared that I was going to get in trouble, you know? And my mom wasn't home. My stepdad was there. He's a huge guy. He's kind of scary just in his own right. Like he's 6'5", used to be in a gang, intimidating person, this guy. And he was kind of still new to the family at that time-ish. So anyway, the kid's dad, Frankie's dad, starts slamming on our door. My stepdad opens the door, doesn't know why the fuck some angry dude's there. Basically, they start yelling at each other. And this guy is making all kinds of threats saying that he's going to have his 18-year-old adult son come after me.
Oh,
and
nice.
my stepdad starts fighting with him. Basically, we had a rivalry with that family for the next year or however long we lived there because of that. There we go. Bad times with neighbors.
It's bad parenting, actually. Not your stepdad, the other guy. I mean, I know I don't have any kids, but I can imagine how like hard it is to not get involved in your kids. But like sometimes people feel like you gotta let them work their own
That
stuff
kid's going
out, you know?
around breaking thumbs. Needs to be. I'm glad you beat the shit out of him, Korey. I'm glad you beat the shit out of that kid.
What a good brother.
The funny thing is like I would give my brothers the hardest time of anyone, but like never broke their bones or anything.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Sweet. It's just a gift that keeps on giving. Korey's violent past.
That's it. I'm not doing
I
those
know.
anymore.
Come on, there's got to be more, but we'll dig into that some other time. Okay, let's see. So that's probably Mikey, right? Next.
Yeah, probably. Mikey recording from Goshen, Indiana. I can't think of any great neighbor stories. At my old house, I had a neighbor who looked like Dale Gribble but talked like Boomhauer, so I thought that was pretty pretty funny because I was a big fan of King of the Hill. And I used to live with Pap in college, and I know one time we had a magical toss of a dinner plate, I believe. Yep. I was wondering if you're going to bring this story up, but somebody threw a dinner plate and it just a amazing toss from like 30 yards, and it swooped up and went underneath the siding on the house and was like lodged like 20 feet up in the air on the side of this apartment building. It was pretty incredible. And
It defied the laws of physics because it was below our deck, but wedged in at an upward angle. So the plate must have like had some sort of updraft catch it and it smacked into our neighbor's apartment building. By the way, the person who threw that plate was formerly an intern on this podcast, but that's all.
Oh
I
my
say.
God.
The stories, spoilers, royalty. That's good.
That's all I got.
Josh, I'm guessing you're up.
Yeah, this is Josh from Goshen. Brett, this is a tough question. I feel like this is a problem with modern society. We don't know our neighbors well enough. I feel like we should have way more stories.
Same.
But do you remember when we first moved into the Maple Street house? And do you remember our girl neighbors that were there?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just telling this story because I think it'll be fun for the listeners. But I had a new shirt, and I was like in college, all pumped about my new shirt, going to this party. It was the Beatles, like these little cartoon Beatles. I was like, oh, this is a great conversation opener. And I was like meeting all the new like girl neighbors, and like the third or fourth one came up and we were talking for a little bit, and she's like, oh, cool Beatles shirt. I was like, thanks. And I kind of like stretched out the like art of it, and I was like, well, which one's your favorite? And she pointed to my wiener and said, that one. Do you remember
No, I don't remember that, but was it the one that had a crush on you the next 2 years?
I don't know. And she had a boyfriend too at the time. It was very inappropriate, actually, but she was drunk.
Come on.
What a Chad, Josh.
Josh the Chad.
You wore a Beatles shirt and you were like, hey, have you ever heard of the Beatles? That was your opening line.
Yeah, it's this little band.
This small indie band called the Beatles.
You don't happen to like music, do you? The thing is, I really appreciated the joke because like the picture of the Beatles on my shirt was like big time mop tops, so definitely they kind of had a phallic look to them. So, you could think of a penis with like the head of a beetle on it or something. I thought that was pretty funny.
So you asked her who your favorite Beatle was, and she pointed your wiener, and then did she say, my favorite is Small McCartney? Or
Fair enough.
Brett's awake, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, that's fine.
I'm just messing around. I don't remember that, but I mean, yeah. I remember those girls. They were, got the nod of approval from wifey.
There you go. Yeah, just quit while you're ahead there, Brett. I'll go next. This is Pappy recording from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Like the Primus song.
Yeah.
Mikey, you stole my answer. I was going to tell the story of the magic plate.
That's how legendary this throw was.
So I guess I'll tell a spoilers one. So all the episodes you hear where I'm recording from Denver, Colorado, I lived in an apartment building called the Jack Kerouac. And I lived in a really tiny apartment. Josh, you saw that apartment. How would you describe the state of that apartment? It was pretty small.
I don't want to bag on you, man.
No. Okay, that should say it all.
It's like
I don't want to say anything mean. So
I will say nothing about this apartment.
Listen, no, it was small, but we had fun, Pap. We had fun.
yeah, I could see like right into a bar. So if you ever are in Denver, Colorado, and you sit at the bar at City O City, if you look out the window, that is literally my apartment where I recorded like 150 episodes of spoilers for you spoilers historians who want to make the pilgrimage there. But
Look towards Mecca and pray towards Pap's dingy apartment.
Josh, you have a really good point though, because I feel like I lived in that building for 3 years, and literally from the time I moved in to the time I moved out, I saw like every person turn over in that apartment. Like I was like the longest tenured person after 3 years. I never met any of my neighbors, not a single fucking one of them. But
sad.
One time so we recorded Tokyo Drift, and I had a most honorable Japanese accent, and I can tell the story since we have a Japanese American person podcast.
I will allow it.
Honorable.
So I was doing my accent for like the hijack. It didn't make the episode, but as clear as you hear me, the only real interaction I ever had with my neighbors was one of them walked by my door, and I heard her say, I said, clear as you can hear me right now, racist Japanese accent really loudly. So I think I didn't have any friends on that floor after that impression. But hey, be friendly to your neighbors. That's a good takeaway from this podcast. Introduce yourself if you have.
Nah, I like to keep to myself.
Yeah, Brett, you're not cool with strangers or neighbors, but you're cool with summoning Satan at the top of the pod.
Oh, whoa, that was purely for entertainment purposes. I don't think that.
That's how it starts.
I read it. I'll show you. It's got quotes on it. That means it definitely was a quote. So,
just for entertainment purposes.
Satan is not my pal. When I was, elementary years, we had a neighbors move in for like a year or two, and they were German, like real German. They were nice people, but like you could definitely tell it was a culture shock. The little kid, I think his name was Gregor. If you're listening, Gregor, Guten Tag, I guess. He used to like walk around like his brother would have a birthday party, and he would walk around in the back just completely naked. It was very, very uncomfortable. Even at my young age, I realized that a kid who's like 4 or 5 years old walking around naked is uncomfortable, and I can't imagine how uncomfortable it was for the people at the party. That same kid, his dad, God, why did I slap there? He ran him over with a car,
Oh my God, Brett, that's
what?
not funny at all.
No. He's fine, probably, but it's not. I was laughing at how weird the situation was. Like, it was crazy. They came over. They were like screaming about help us, and everything all turned out fine. He just backed into him. He backed over him, and everything was fine. But it was just like a really tense day or two. And
not what I expected when you said a boring story.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Was the kid naked when he got run over by his father?
Yeah, that would have been the.
I doubt it. But maybe. I mean, he just was behind the car, and the dad ran him over, and he was just freaking out. It was just crazy times.
Oh my gosh! And they ran over, saying things such as "Help us, help us." Oh my God!
Just a reminder for the audience at home: Brett chose this question on his own volition, and that was
and I could not think of anything good, but. I don't know. It's a movie about neighbors, so I wanted to do that, and I don't know. I thought I came with a decent one. I couldn't think of anything cool in college because I don't know. I kept to myself in college, I guess. So
you were tortured by Josh in college. That's what.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of my stories are not podcast. I'm not going to tell them on the podcast. Korey and I run into this situation all the time where we have a lot of cool stories. I just don't want to tell them on the podcast. So, maybe for the after hours spoilers if we ever do something like that.
Jeez.
Patrons.
For patrons, there we go. Well, no. Because I don't want my brother hearing these stories. Sorry, Brian.
The Violent Past podcast.
I didn't say I had a violent past. It was just wild. All right. So my goal was to not have a long podcast, and we're 17 minutes in already. But it's been really good. So we're going to talk about the neighbors of the Burbs right now. We're doing the Burbs. It's the same director that did Gremlins, and that's his most famous movie.
Small Soldiers.
Joe Dante.
This was a movie that he talks about. He said it was a bomb. I mean, it was a bomb with critics, but it was, it did well at the box office. Fans liked it, and it became a kind of a cult classic. He said he didn't realize how much people liked it until he'd be at a random dentist store or a dentist office, and someone would say,
"One dentist,
what do you do?"
please.
One dentist, yeah, sorry. And they would say, "Oh, you did the Burbs," and he didn't realize how popular it was until people just always brought that up. And I would say Gremlins has probably stood the test of time, when people know Gremlins more than the Burbs. But
we covered Gremlins, Joe Dante 2 Movie Club. Yeah, one of our first podcasts was Gremlins.
It's got one of my favorite monologues ever in it, but not in the movie, but you guys playing the clip from the movie where she's telling the very sad but uncomfortably funny story about her dad getting stuck in the chimney trying to be Santa Claus.
I fucking love that moment.
Sounds so funny. If you guys get a chance, go back and listen to that. But that's that's pre-100, right?
I think it's literally before. I think it's pre-50, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's the first Christmas season.
You know what? Don't go back and listen to it. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe not.
Just
Probably
listen to
not.
the clip.
Yeah.
Just download that. Pap, why don't you kind of explain the deal with the Petersons, what their dynamic is, and what's going on this week in the Burbs?
Yeah, so the Petersons consist of Tom Hanks playing Ray Peterson and Carrie Fisher playing Carol Peterson. I know I've had a lot of mean things to say about Carrie Fisher on this podcast. She's great in this role. She's absolutely fantastic, as is Tom Hanks. Big fan of Tom Hanks, as well documented on this and Big Dumb Movie. But Tom Hanks, it's not clear what his career is. He's pretty successful by the suburban, comfortable life that his family lives. I don't think it's clear what medical condition he has, maybe an ulcer or something, but he's taken a week off work, and he's the classic 80s dad, home from work from a week and trying to find something to do. And they have a very loving relationship. I think Carrie Fisher does a great job of striding the line between being kind of a no nonsense tough wife in the situation, but also coming across as kind or whatever. Seems to be a good couple, Brett.
I don't really know why, but if you look at some of the trivia in this, Tom Hanks was because you didn't even mention the kid.
The who?
I don't know if it was early in his career and he didn't want to be seen as old. He was kind of the young actor at the time. I don't know if he wanted to not be typecast or whatever, but he was really weird about it. And I think he kind of fought a little bit not to have the kid. So
the kid's barely in the movie.
Yeah, he's not in it very much. And I don't know if Hanks had something to do about it. What are you saying, Mikey?
I was going to say he's in it for 10 seconds.
Yeah, he's got a couple scenes. He's got a couple weird looks. He hangs out with Ricky a little bit. But yeah, so Carrie Fisher's pretty good in this movie. I like her a lot, actually. She's kind of a mixture of, they have fun together. I love Jeopardy. It's like my favorite show of all time. I love that they're playing along.
But I'll be back in time for Final Jeopardy.
Mikey, will you explain the Rumsfields a little bit to us?
Mark Rumsfield is a vet. I think he mentions Korea or Vietnam or something. He just says like Southeast Asia at one point.
Vietnam, yeah.
And he's still very patriotic and very like regimented and raises the flag like every morning and salutes it. And his wife, Bonnie, is just kind of ditzy. She's nice, but she is just kind of like hanging around the house, carrying a dog for most of the movie. She's not really in it too much.
Yeah, she's a kind of a bit of eye candy for the men.
For the kid, for Corey Feldman.
Yeah, the kid likes to get up there and spy on her and Ricky. And like, actually another funny thing that if you read a little bit about Hanks is like, he couldn't figure out what she was in the movie, what her role was. And even he got them all like sunglasses as a present and wrote them all cards. And even in the card he wrote for her, he said something like, Wendy, I had a great time working with you. I still don't know what you were doing, what you were going for in this movie. I mean, like, it's something like that. Like,
Jesus.
Also, there's like, it looks like a pretty big age discrepancy between the two of them.
He must be hung like a horse.
It never really goes like full-fledged sexual, though, I would say. It kind of just teases it a lot, but it never really goes there. I don't know.
What do you mean? Like the eye candy part or the age difference?
Well, both, but I think just like there's no nudity. There's no like super revealing clothing. I don't think that like they oogle at. It's just kind of like she's pretty. She's a pretty girl on the cul-de-sac, I think.
I kind of disagree. There's one moment
with the tan lines. It's super inappropriate for Ricky to say, "No tan lines today." Is that what you're thinking of, Corey?
You're right.
Yeah, when like the camera's like right up her ass in those shorts.
Hey now.
That's fair enough. So maybe I missed one, but it seemed I'll give you that, Corey. That's true.
I guess for the 80s, Josh, it could have been so much worse.
Yes.
Like
could have.
At one point, somebody goes up to like look in a window, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to look at Bonnie, but he's really just going up to knock on someone's door. Like, so I'll get into it more later, but Rumsfeld, I think his physical comedy in this movie is my favorite part of this movie. It's weird to think of such a great actor like Bruce Dern being like the physical comedy relief in a movie. But I don't know, he was pretty established by 89, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had been nominated for, I think, multiple Oscars.
Okay.
By this point.
I don't know his career that much. Obviously, I know his wife was famous, and he's got a famous daughter.
Laura Dern, yeah.
Yep.
I think if I was an alien, I knew nothing about like the careers of these people, and I sat down and watched this movie, I would say like Bruce Dern's got to be the most successful actor out of this bunch, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's so great in that role.
I know more for his older roles. He's kind of a cantankerous person, but I guess I don't really. I mean, all I can think of in my head is his role in
Gunsmoke.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Was he in Gunsmoke?
It looks like at like 65 to 69, he was in like 5 episodes.
Huh.
Call my pops about that. Yeah, Mikey, get him on the phone.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he's just really weird in that. He's old and grumpy, and yeah, it's really weird. Let's go.
Wait, you see the Spawn Ranch guy?
Yeah, he's the old blind guy.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think he's in a couple. He's in at least one Quentin Tarantino movies in The Hateful Eight.
And Once Upon, so he's in 2.
At least 2. So, Josh, why don't you, since we're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles brothers, I guess I could have gone with Corey too. Why don't you talk a little bit about Ricky Butler?
Well, speaking of Corey Feldman, our pizza dude, Donatello.
He says pizza dude too. It cracked me up.
No, he says pizza dude 3 times. Okay.
Oh
He
no, the
doesn't
pizza dude.
He doesn't
Christ.
just say pizza dude.
Dude's got 30 seconds.
This came out a year before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I gotta think that he was like kind of auditioning for that through this, or this somehow helped him nail that role. At one point, it's really blatant. He says like, "Call the pizza dude," and he gives a guy a high five. It's like pretty much one for
That's
one.
how he got the job, right there.
In this movie, Corey Feldman plays the role of he's a teenager at home alone for this time period that we see him, and he's just
Very
like
80s.
he's just a really interested spectator.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy his enthusiasm. I would say he's probably one of my favorite neighbors, Brett, because he's just like so happy all the time, and like Tom Hanks is so grumpy and ulcered, and until the end he's kind of always reserving his emotions. So I actually really enjoy Corey Feldman in this.
Listen, man, we're gonna make a run to McDee's. You want a quarter pounder or something? Oh, no way! Hey, wait, you guys can't go now. It's the best part. I called the pizza dude. All right.
How you doing?
Hi.
Nice night.
Mm-hmm. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Yeah, like everyone else is, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of them were bored. You know, one of the reasons they take to the Klopex, which we'll get to later, is they're looking for excitement and they're really curious. But like Ricky's not curious about them as much as he's just curious about the other people being curious about the Klopex. Like he says it multiple times. He just freaking loves watching what's going on.
I love it when he's like saying hello to Bruce Stern in the morning, and Bruce Stern just ignores him and is a dick. And he's like, "I love that guy," and he just like doesn't care.
And I think at the very end he says something like, "I love this neighborhood." I mean, he
He
just
breaks
loves
the
being
fourth
there.
wall. He like looks right in the camera.
That was weird. Yeah.
Did you like it, Mikey? I'm kind of mixed.
Well, I was like confused if I had missed other times that he had talked to the camera, because it was just like, oh, was this the thing the whole time? I didn't.
Fair.
Yeah.
He's basically the audience. He's like, get stoned, get some pizza, and watch this cult movie at midnight, basically, getting all his friends together.
There's a lot of weird relationships in this movie because like, and sometimes they'll like talk crap to each other, or they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's an idiot," and then like 3 hours later they're meeting up to go hang out. It's just super weird. So, Korey, why don't you go over the guy who by far talks the most, Art Weingartner? Can you explain him a little bit?
Art. Yeah, he seems to be like Tom Hanks's like BFF among the neighbors. Like they, I guess, spend a lot of time together. I imagine they like drink beers together, you know, after work and stuff like that. But he is referred to as a fat guy a lot in the movie. He's a little bit overweight, but he's not like a huge fat guy or anything. I don't know what, but maybe that like was in the script and he got cast and like, oh, we'll just keep it in, you know. I don't know what they're doing with that, but I don't know. He's an annoying fucking bastard that won't shut the fuck up. I really hate this fucking dude. Not just his character, but like he just annoys me. He's in Blank Check. Do you guys know the movie Blank Check?
Yeah, but I've only seen it once. He's also in Scary Movie, and he cracks me up on that movie.
I don't remember Scary Movie. It's been a while, but in Blank Check, he's basically like the same type. And I did a podcast once on that movie. I referred to him, I think, as like a poor man's Robin Williams. He's trying to do this like fast talking shtick, and it's just, it is not fucking funny. He thinks he's very funny, but he's not at all.
Like, I'm with you, Kylo. It's not that I just like hate his character because his character's like mean. It's that like when he's on screen, I'm uncomfortable watching this.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Do any of you other two have anything more positive to say about Art, or are you guys?
I wasn't visually disgusted by him like these two were.
He did some things that made me laugh.
Yeah, he seems like an asshole, but I mean, it doesn't seem like Tom Hanks is necessarily wants to be his BFF. I mean, he's just kind of like, they're just like always around hanging outside, and he lets them smoke cigars at his house, so he kind of tolerates him. I don't know. They don't seem like they hang out all the time or whatever, especially towards the end.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a positive thing, Brett, but I mean, like, he is in a movie with Carrie Fisher, Bruce Dern, and Tom Hanks. Like, he's got a lot of like comedic speed and like really great actors that he's going up against. But he did have one of my favorite lines of the movie, which was, I forget what it was. We can play the clip, but it's something like, "We need a gallon of holy water. My brother's a priest. He can get us a deal," or something like that. I did laugh at that. So he's got a couple jokes that do land.
Do you know what this is?
It's a bone.
It's a femur.
It's a femur bone.
A femur just happens to be a human thigh bone, Ray.
Wait, how do you know that?
Biology 101. I mean, look at the size of this thing. You think this came off a chicken or something?
It's funny, I think when most people think of Tom Hanks, they think about him being sweet and amazing and probably one of the best people in Hollywood to work with, but him and Rick Ducommun, who played Art Weingartner, did not get along in this in off screen. So like maybe Korey and Josh, a little bit of that is bleeding into his real life too. Like he's maybe a guy who just doesn't shut up.
He is meant to be like a little bit of a pest to the Tom Hanks character. Like Tom Hanks is like more or less like the straight man, and then he's kind of like the zany one, if we're gonna go with like them as a duo. They're not necessarily a duo because, you know, there's more people that get involved in their little schemes, but I'd say among the neighbors, like those two are probably the closest. That's the vibe I got anyway.
I never thought about this until just now, and I'm wondering, like, maybe think of like an 80s film formula. I feel like in a different movie, his character and Ricky's character would have been flip-flopped. The kid would have been the really annoying guy who followed people around and never shut up, and maybe Art would have been like the one guy who loved the neighborhood. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't work. It's just something that popped in my head. I feel
for the longest time, I thought Ricky was his kid.
I did too, Mikey.
Brittany said, so it was like that guy's son. I said, I don't think so. I think I said, she's like, we're his parents. I'm like, they're just out of town. He mentions it like once. So.
Yeah, that's the moment when we realized that Corey Feldman is not that guy's kid. Yeah. I think we're all in the same boat there.
Yeah.
I kind of wish Art would have died.
Oh my god!
I mean, there's no real casualties.
Kill him
amongst the neighbors. But like, you know, if this is like a spoof of like a horror movie, I feel like one of them should have died, and he would have been like the most obvious choice other than Bonnie, Bruce Dern's wife.
How do you kill him off then, Pap?
Skin him alive.
Like when they drop that note into the thing, right? Like maybe, or you should just like get electrocuted when he's cutting that wire. That's very dangerous, actually.
It's funny that happens in another Joe Dante movie, Small Soldiers, which also has some of the same cast members from this movie are in that movie. At least one, Bonnie, I think. But in Small Soldiers, the kid's up there messing with the electrical lines and gets like blown off and knocked down onto the ground. Same thing happens to that guy Art in this movie. I will say this though, the stunt looked pretty good. The stuntman like falling down looked not bad.
I was gonna say that about the explosion at the end too. Like that looked very large, and those people looked like they were very close to that exploding house.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's a lot of people from Small Soldiers that are in this movie.
Dick Miller, he's another one. He has a very small part in this movie as like the garbage man. Kind of a pleasant
Bruce
surprise
Dern.
to see him, you know. He pops up in Joe Dante movies a lot.
Is he the one wearing the rainbow pin on
No,
his
that's
coat?
Robert Picardo, who is of Star Trek fame. He's in Deep Space Nine. He's the emergency medical hologram. I love Robert Picardo. I've seen him sing in person. I've gone to see him. He sang with Bill Nye. It was very strange, but it was cool. I love that dude.
So our last neighbor is not much in the story, but he is kind of the catalyst for the whole movie, is Walter Sesnick. Walter Sesnick's kind of your typical movie neighbor that's kind of a dick. He doesn't really get along with anybody else. He's got a dog that he's trained to crap in Rumsfeld's yard for some reason.
Not just any dog, Brett. Sorry to interrupt. The dog from Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, exactly.
Precious?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wait, the same exact dog.
Same dog.
The literal same dog. Yeah.
This dog is an
Brett,
actor.
is the dog still alive?
Oh no. No way.
Come on, Brett.
Damn shame.
This was 32 years ago. The dog is dead.
What did the dog die of, Brett? Come on, just give it to us.
Suicide.
Oh no.
His rolls.
Wow.
Hollywood got to him.
His rolls dried up. All the dogs he used to know were all passing away. He just couldn't. Okay, sorry. Suicide's not funny, guys. I'm sorry.
Unless it's a dog.
Basically, the catalyst of this movie is this guy. What did I say his name was? Walter. He kind of just disappears, I guess.
He has to go to the hospital, but I have a question since we're doing this fast and loose a little bit. So obviously, like his disappearance is a red herring.
Yeah.
And the neighbors are like inspired to continue investigating because like his toupee is in a weird spot and his house is all disturbed. But why do the weird neighbors have his toupee and his mail? That's what I don't understand.
They mention it at the end.
I may have missed that.
I don't know why he picked them. Maybe it's because he hated all the other neighbors, but he asked them to pick up his mail. And he said the toupee, they had to leave kind of abruptly one night to go to the hospital, and it got mixed up with he kind of scooped it up and bent the mail like the magazines, and it got caught in there.
It got messed up in the mail because Tom Hanks put it in the mail slot.
There you go.
Oh, that makes sense.
But that's why they were involved in that. And when I say they, I mean the Klopeks. The Klopeks are making a racket. The neighbors are starting to get curious because at night it's making a very loud noise. A lot of this bright lights are coming out of the basement. There's lightning involved. There's this really weird weather phenomenon when you step on their property. It's all just kind of all going on, and mix that with they think that Walter's disappear, and then that's kind of how the movie gets going. I basically have this kind of into 3 parts. This movie, it starts like Act 1 is kind of curiosity. 2 is kind of formatting a plan and gathering evidence, and then 3 is kind of executing that plan, and then the fallout.
I mean, before they actually enter the Klopeks house, they're scoping things out. One of the things they do is they just are going to go knock on the door and introduce themselves, which they're very timid about doing. This is, Tom Hanks, Ray, and his friend Art. They eventually make their way up to the door. They're very scared because this house is like decrepit. It's like an Addams Family house. These people look like weirdos. The one person that they show us a few times in passing looks like I guess he looks like an Addams Family member, actually. He's got red hair. He's got sunken in eyes. He's got hillbilly teeth. But they go to the door and they knock. And when they knock, somehow, like their number sign, their 666 street address, like falls down or something. And basically, like, a swarm of bees come flying out of the wall. So
full on My Girl at this point.
Ooh.
Yeah, hide Macaulay Culkin. Bees are attacking. There's like a few things in this movie early on where you kind of think there might be some supernatural element at play, and that I think is kind of part of it. But that's one of the things they do, Brett.
Yeah.
I got one, Brett. They spy the kid Klopek, like throwing away a suspicious package. So they get to it late in the morning, and it's already like been thrown away apparently by the dump truck. And who is it? Rumsfeld and Art.
Art, yeah.
Like are literally like the scene shows them in the back of the dump truck. It's really like gross and grimy, kind of a cool set piece. But the really cool thing I like, Brett, is that for the entire rest of the movie, they show that like pile of trash on the ground in the street. It's like part of the set now.
Yeah.
Everybody just drives around the pile of trash in the street.
Or just crush it.
Supreme Court says once it hits the curb, it's public domain.
Yeah.
It's their right.
Yeah, I was going to mention the trash in the street. That was funny because I'm watching that scene right now. But I like when they're actually in the house and Rumsfeld is going around peeling wallpaper off the wall. I don't know why.
Apparently that was like ad lib. Like
he's like checking for hidden door panels or something, and he's just like tearing humongous chunks of wallpaper off the walls.
And it's so quiet and awkward in there.
Yeah.
And the wallpaper is just like
kind of a theme. My themes for this movie is a writer's strike was going on. From what I've read, a lot of rewrites happen on set just for time and to think something's isn't working. So while the writer was there on set, he was not allowed to write because they were on strike. Mm-hmm. So the director encouraged the actors to do a lot of ad-libbing. One of the ad-libs, I guess, physically was him pulling that wallpaper, and I think I think that's one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Yeah.
So
it's so dumb.
So the writer's like on set, but just like, I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna talk.
He couldn't work. I mean,
union.
But he was there because I think he knows the director and wanted to see what's going on. But Bruce Dern. I mean, I think like all my favorite parts of this movie, probably are just him in the physicality of his comedy.
I got one that doesn't work for me as well, though, and it's the one that's not explained by the return of Walter or whatever his name is. When they find the femur, or the dog finds the femur. What a weird directing choice when they do that, like zoom in, zoom out, like really quickly, like back to back. Like that's a little bit too
zany,
too amateurish, too manic for me. I didn't like that little bit.
But also, it was the only time something like that was done.
But that's even weirder when you only do it once. It's like that weird
better.
edit in Korey where they speed things up out of nowhere. It's like, wait, what? What is happening here?
It's kind of like Corey Feldman looking at the camera, fourth person, or
Yeah,
breaking the wall
definitely.
at the end too.
I think this movie's tone is like kind of all over the place. I think it kind of wants to be a scary movie, doesn't really follow through on that. And then I think if it wanted to break a fourth wall, just very lazily forgot to do that. But I think it's just more of, I don't know, just physical comedy with a murder mystery behind it more than a scary movie.
That fourth wall thing would have worked better if Corey Feldman had set that up at the beginning of the movie, right? Like if he looks in the camera,
like, "Oh, wait till you see what goes on in my neighborhood." Like,
I love this neighborhood at the beginning, and then you tie it in again at the end. But when it just happens at the end, it's like, wait, that's pretty weird and out of place.
Kind of dropped the whole spooky thing, like, I don't know, the supernatural spooky thing fairly early for me, I felt like. And it was like, oh, I kind of liked wondering what was happening with the Klopeks. Like, are they monsters or murderers or vampires or whatever? I don't know.
Also, the musical cues are a little bit all over the place. Jerry Goldsmith, obviously legendary composer, but like when it goes to like the Western stuff, I do laugh a little bit. But like at the beginning when the dog first gets out and it like almost plays that dog noise in the score, like bark, 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 like in the score, it's kind of like, I don't know, a little bit all over the place.
That got my attention, and that's generally not a good thing in a music score, you know? 'Cause it reminded me of Goosebumps. Do you remember the Goosebumps theme has the part where it barks?
Yeah.
They must have saw this. Whoever did the Goosebumps theme. I know you watched this movie, you son of a bitch.
Pap, we talked about how we don't, in 2021, know our neighbors very well. But in this movie, it portrays, like, Art, who just unwantingly just goes in people's fridges. These people are constantly breaking into each other's houses. Is there any, like, theme about what it is to be, like, a good neighbor in this movie that you took away within this? Because I think this whole plot that Brett's setting up is like all the neighbors gaining together to like try to accomplish a goal or something. I don't know. It seems kind of foreign, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very much kind of a late 80s movie, right? In the sense of that, if you look at like America's historical context, like Reagan happened, the suburbs start exploding well before that. But this is kind of like the pushback against the suburbs, right? And a lot of people in the 90s would like, like return to earth movement type things. I get more of those vibes, like, oh, actually the suburbs are scary type thing in our life. Isn't that good? I don't know. I don't get like much of a good neighbor, but I think at the end of the day that there is kind of like a positive aspect of their community, right, Josh? I mean, it does seem to be like, despite the dysfunction, it's all for the better that they're at least semi-close, right?
What do you think, Brett? Is it a net positive or negative here as far as neighbors go?
Well, I mean, I think it's, my father-in-law knows everybody on his street and everybody on the street over. Like, it's kind of a joke between Brittany and I. It's just like, he knows everybody in our street. He comes in and he's like, oh, when I pull up, all the guys come out. I'm like, yeah, and I don't know anybody. I like to be left alone. So, for them, I would say it's a net positive. I mean, I'm sure Tom Hanks' character probably gets a little annoyed by it, but it's just kind of a way of life out there. But it also, at the same time, it kind of leads to, I wouldn't say the downfall because they all come out all right, but, the Klopeks stick out because they don't do what they consider to be normal neighborly stuff. Introduce themselves, didn't have an open house. And they didn't really say that, but that's another thing some people do. I would never do that. I don't want you in my house.
Dang.
You guys can come to my house, but not my neighbors. I mean,
but they do make a point to say that who were the previous people who lived there, the Knapps or whatever. Like, no one knew the Knapps either, right? Like,
I think they were old people that stuck to themselves, I believe. But Knapps, yeah, that sounds right. I don't know, Josh.
But it's more, I don't know. It's very much of its time, and this is not a criticism of the movie at all. But like in 2021, like the quote foreigner neighbors wouldn't end up being the bad guys ultimately, right? That's just something that's changed in the way that like movies are made, because like these guys are like not Slavic or whatever. They like get pissed about that, but there's something else. Like they have an accent,
But at the same time, they were suspicious of the neighbors before they knew anything about.
No. Right. I'm just saying, like in the way that movies are made, like people would be too scared of the pushback of having the foreign neighbors be the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think the scene that kind of propels us to the big climax of the last day is when, I guess you could say, cooler heads prevail with the two women. They're just like, hey, let's just go over there. And Art's like, oh, should I come? They're like, no, you're not coming, because, he'll ruin it. And that's where you get to the funny part where they make brownies, and it's kind of a callback to what happens earlier where somebody steps through there, the deck, and then that's the part, the first time I watched the movie, the definitely the hardest I laughed was when he steps in that hole and drops the brownies. I mean, like, that makes me laugh.
And then hands him the tray of dirty brownies.
Yeah. And then who's the first other person we meet, Mikey?
In the house?
Yeah, in the house.
Yeah, we met Hans. It's
Ruben.
Ruben has a very bizarre haircut, which made me crack up.
It's like a
it's hard to take him
Puritan
seriously.
from like the 1600s.
Yeah, but he just seems annoyed with the neighbors when they come over. Bonnie slides open like a pantry door or something, and he's just like behind there, and he's like annoyed, and he is just kind of like forced into entertaining these people that have walked into his house very rudely, and he's just kind of giving them very short answers to their questions, and kind of also like not ushering them out, but just like tolerating them in his house.
I just recall him sitting on a couch just staring at Tom Hanks' face in silence.
Yeah. Angry. Very, very angry looking. Korey, when I think of classics, I think of peanut butter and jelly, lamb and tuna fish, and sardines and pretzels. I mean, that's what you think of, right?
Yeah, if you have people over, you got to break out the good snacks. I'm sure they've been saving up those sardines long past their expiry date.
There's flies buzzing out of them.
They were buzzing out of them? Okay, I didn't catch that.
No, I don't know if they were out.
There were fly noises for sure that they added.
But has anyone ever had a sardine?
Yeah.
No, and I think it's bullcrap. Carrie Fisher is like, I'm not gonna have one, and then she's like, yeah, you
eat one.
Yeah.
That scene was hilarious.
So then, there were 2 shots in this movie that I liked when we finally meet Werner, Dr. Werner.
Ellen.
Who?
Ellen.
DeGeneres?
Dude, I just thought he was Ellen at first.
That's interesting. You want to explain that one?
His face and hair look like Ellen? I don't know.
Okay.
Just so everyone knows, Josh hates Ellen. He's got hatred for her.
What?
But anyway,
Jeez, at a point, my God.
Where you
Sorry,
think,
guys.
I just outed you in front of the Ellenites. That's not good. It probably should be edited.
Yeah, you should
There's
delete your Twitter.
A huge overlap between people who like spoilers and people who like Ellen DeGeneres. Josh, come on.
I'm getting called out as like the only person that thinks Ellen is kind of shitty.
No, she's shitty. I hate Ellen DeGeneres too.
Who looks like Ellen? Which?
He thinks Dr. Klopak looks like Ellen.
Oh. Okay.
But anyway, he comes out. I thought he was coming from a different room, but apparently he's coming from the basement, and it's kind of a classic horror movie shot. With the shadow looks really big, and you expect some big imposing figure, but what is he, about 4'10", maybe? And I actually really like this actor. I don't.
Yeah,
I know
he's
very good things, but
he's the head of the Illinois Nazis in Blues Brothers.
In the Blues Brothers,
right?
I think he's. Yeah. Is he also in Wedding Crashers as the priest? Yep, he's the priest.
He's in Biodome. He's Leaky in Biodome, Mr. Leaky.
Yeah, so he's pretty funny. I really like him. King of the Hill. He was Bob Jenkins, whoever that is.
King of the Hill.
But anyway, yeah. So he is kind of everything that the other 2 Klopeks are not. Pappy, why don't you describe him a little bit for us?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. He's sophisticated. He's probably more of like the sociopath of this group, right? In terms of the brains behind the operation, knows how to smooze people, knows how to like level things over with the neighbors. He claims to have painted that painting that Mikey talks about, and there's like a bit with Tom Hanks where he thinks it's blood over his hands, but it's actually paint. But he's the ultimate villain, right, Brett, of this movie. He's we don't know what he's doing with these bodies, but he's for some reason collecting bodies and incinerating bodies and like a mass murderer doctor.
Yeah. Also, just as a side, I know you know these movies. He's in Nashville and Magnolia. So yeah, pretty good career.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you kind of find out later that they go from.
Josh is posting pictures to justify the Ellen.
No, I gotta see this. Hold on. I'm just getting the blips on my.
It's because it's pure white hair, short snow white
haircut.
Ellen's probably taller than this man.
Josh, describe for the use your words, Josh. Describe to the audience at home the similarities.
Okay, so when he first slowly rounds the corner, he just has bright, whitish blonde hair. His eyebrows are really apparent and like up. And he just has like the same face structure as Ellen. I literally just thought of Ellen. Has nothing to do with like her shittiness or anything personality wise.
So you think that she's a murderer who? I got it. It's starting to make sense now.
Yeah, she has a lot of skulls in her trunk, Brett.
Jafar good, Ellen bad. Got it.
You guys know, like on Ellen, how they do those like pranks, like they catch people in public like doing something, and they put it on the show, kind of like in between her interviews and stuff. Like, there's one specifically that I know of where they're trying to like distract like people who are on their phones too much in public, right? So they'll see if people who are walking around looking at their phones will notice something crazy happening nearby. That shit is all set up. I know someone that was on the Ellen show, and basically like the staff told him like, okay, just keep looking at your phone no matter what we do.
That's a bummer.
Isn't that fucked up? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
I wasn't allowed to tell that story, but I did anyway.
Breaking news here on Spoilers.
That's from our live studio audience here at Spoilers.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Pappy, can we reveal that Spoilers is fake and we have this all written out script before we come on?
We rehearse it.
Yes, Josh, you are right. I am reading off the script.
He said happily.
Why don't we take that from the top, and this time let's do it good.
Yeah, okay. Pappy, should we reveal? I'm not going to do it again. Good job, there, guys. That was great. Great gag.
Also, another factoid is our Patreon account and her bank account look the exact same.
True.
We have the same salary as her, so.
We probably make 1/1,000,000th of a cent for every episode that she makes, if not less.
Probably less.
Brett, I have a question for you at this point. Do they do, and I get that's a silly, zany, manic comedy, but do they do enough yada-yadaing away of why they don't contact the police at this point? Like this ex-military guy and this group of suburban family, the first thing they got to do is call the police, right?
They don't have anything. What are they? They don't have any evidence at all.
After this, he has the wig and he has the mail at this point.
Bone, a human bone.
And a human bone.
Okay, so the mail obviously is explained, the wig's explained, and the bone, you can't prove that it got it from there. I'm with you, but A, as my dad would say, it's in the script. B, I think you kind of explained why Rumsfeld isn't the type to call the police, because it's kind of his thing probably, and he's not going to go to the police. He's, take care of things himself.
Off the books.
I think it's just more of just a curiosity at this point.
Tom Hanks's character should be like, let's go to the police, and Art is like, no, for X, Y, and Z reason.
It is kind of weird that he does.
One of these characters should be advocating what the audience is thinking. Okay, now you have enough evidence. Go to the police.
That's Ricky. That's Ricky Butler. He's talking to us, the audience. Hey, I should go call the police right now, but I'm not going to.
He's having too good a time,
dude instead.
Yeah.
The pizza dude.
I'm going to go get high and order pizza.
What struck me when Brett was talking there is, yes, Tom Hanks does kind of flip out, have an anxiety attack at the Klopex, and he had an anxiety attack or something bad happened with his work pre-movie. And we all know about the famous end scene blowout and him throwing a temper tantrum, laying down in an ambulance in anger. It's really weird. I think this dude needs a therapist really badly. It didn't really strike me till Brett was saying that. He keeps wigging out, truly.
Well, something about young Tom Hanks, and I really wish I would have said this on the Big episode that we did over at Big Dumb Movie, but he does exasperated in almost every role that he does in his early career, right? That yell.
It's so funny.
He's great at it, and his yell is perfect, and he's got this weird sense of this weird guttural voice when he yells like that, and it translates all the way up to Woody, right, in Toy Story. But it's just another movie where he's doing the same exasperated Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Shut up, Art! Shut up! God, you don't know when to quit, do you? Look at me!
Now,
soldier! You leave them alone! Get off their case already! You are a toy! You weren't the real Buzz Lightyear, you're an action figure!
I really hate how they all leave the house. The movie needs an excuse for them to kind of abruptly rush out of the house, and it's the dog. And it's just a weak moment. That doesn't seem like a great reason for them to just suddenly stop asking the questions that are clearly on their mind and stop bringing stuff up. I don't know. It's just too okay, what can we do? We need something with big energy. A dog jumps out and, chases the other guy away. Wasn't into it.
The next day, they decide they're going to go look for Walter. They're convinced Walter's in there. They're convinced the femur is his femur. So they are going to take the Klopex house by force. Mikey, give me one of the ways. What's some of the ways where they start to take this house?
They go out back and dig up the backyard where Tom Hanks was watching them dig up in the middle of the night. in the rain one night, I guess maybe to see if there's bodies back there. Nothing. And then they go inside in the basement and just start fucking up the foundation of this house, causing a lot of damage. And
so they have a bunch of alarm systems in there. So how did they get through that?
Oh yeah, they kill the power to the whole neighborhood. So
your boy, what's your boy do to kill the power?
Maybe the whole southwest section of the neighborhood.
Art does an idea so good that they reuse it in Small Soldiers, like I mentioned earlier. He climbs up one of the power poles and he just like starts like fucking around with a wrench. Like he talks a lot of shit, this guy. He acts like he always knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't know shit. Like he's just clearly gonna go up there and get his ass fucking blown to smithereens, which is exactly what happens because he's a dumbass. He's like, you know, trying to cut a cable, I think, like right next to one of the fucking main conductors. I don't know electronic terms, but blows himself off the pole, lands on top of like a tool shed, falls through it. His like helmet is like burned into his skull, and his like fillings are now hot, and his fingernails are black. So we get like
I do like the fingernail black. I think that attention, I know it's kind of ridiculous, but I think
I was going to kind of speak to that. It's like a kind of a Looney Tunes-ish moment, right? Like that's the kind of a slapstick comedy we get with a character of this type, you know, with like the more or less, and I mean, it's probably not like a PC thing to say, but like the fat guy of the movie, you know, like he's going to slip and fall a lot kind of thing. At least that was like the 80s sentiment.
Josh, what's Rumsfeld doing at this point? What's his job?
I'm so glad you tossed this to me, Brett, because this is actually my favorite shot of the movie. Comes from Rumsfeld being on his roof. He is like the scout. I think he calls himself like Eagle Eye 1 or something like that. They have big old walkie-talkies, and he's on his roof in camo with binoculars and like a telescope checking things out. But specifically, there's a shot where it shows him talking on the walkie-talkie, and he's telling the guys like one at a time to go over the fence. Like, all right, guy number 1 now, guy number 2 now. And you can see Tom Hanks and Art like over his shoulder, super far in the background, like actually doing those things. And it's just like a cool perspective moment, and you get a feel for like space and distance in the neighborhood. It feels very real. I just really like that.
Pappy, why don't you fill us in real quick? Where are Tom Hanks' wife and kid? How did they get out of the story? Why don't you go ahead and fill us in on the outside factors?
Yeah, Carrie Fisher and No Name Kid have gone up to the lake house, which has been a running theme, or a running like place that Tom Hanks like doesn't want to go or whatever, because he thinks it's like more stressful than just relaxing at home. But so they're out of the picture. Ricky Corey Feldman is like having a party. He's having like all of his friends over. They're ordering pizza. They're clearly smoking weed. I love that part like earlier in the movie where he has this like tobacco pipe with him, and like Tom Hanks like rips it out of his hands and like smells it to smell for weed or whatever, which is pretty funny. But yeah, he's having all of his neighborhood buddies over to watch the shit show unfold.
It's kind of like they're playing telephone, musical chairs, I don't know, whatever, with the body. They think it's in the trash. Then it's not in the trash, so then they think they're putting it in the back. It's not there. So I have this big oven.
Hey, a man's furnace is his own business.
That's been like a point of mystery like throughout the movie in a lot of places, right? Like I think the very first unusual thing we see with that Addams Family weird fucked up house is like lights coming out from like the basement area. Like there's some shit concocting down there, and we don't know what it is. So like at this point in the movie, when he finally gets down there, there's this like insane, like industrial yet kind of old timey furnace. And so you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the furnace for? But they don't do like the one thing you would think they would do, right? Like open the fucking thing.
We want them to open it, yeah.
Right. Instead, they start like digging under it. Like that's the bright idea. Like, oh, let's dig for bodies down here.
Yeah.
Art is so useless. He watches him dig. He's truly terrible.
No, he's just up there practicing his stand-up bombing.
And his stand-up's terrible too, I guarantee.
You're sick bastards, you know that? Did you hear now that they're putting pictures of missing gay guys on Vaseline jars? apparently it's just a picture of the back of the guy's head. So...
Editor's note, his stand-up did suck.
We as the audience, we see the Klopeks come back. Now, the Klopeks see what's going on, and then they leave. Like, we don't really know what they're doing.
How did they get past Rumsfeld? I don't understand that.
Yeah, like, that's kind of what I'm wondering. Maybe he didn't see him, but, like, he doesn't report it to them, I don't believe.
He says something on the radio, but Tom Hanks is, like, burying his radio with all the dirt he's digging up.
Yeah.
The first time they go by?
Yeah.
I thought that was the second time when they came back, but it could have been. I don't really remember, but...
The way I remembered it, it seemed like Rumsfeld just like totally missed them driving down the road in broad daylight, and this guy survived Nam. It's like...
Probably thought it was a hallucination or something.
Dude.
He actually never saw any combat. He was just...
He was in Canada. It's like Frank Reynolds.
Yeah.
When I was in Nam...
Yeah, he was stationed.
I just saw something the other day where they're like, he says in Nam, and they go, you mean during Nam? You didn't go to Nam. He's like, oh yeah, during Nam. I don't remember what that was. Funny. I think it might have been Sopranos.
Was that Shameless?
No, I don't watch that, but
Okay.
I think it might have been Sopranos or I don't know. But it was really funny. And it just reminded me of Frank Reynolds. He's always like, oh, when I was in Nam, and they're like, you were in Canada.
You were running a sweatshop. We lost a lot of good men in that sweatshop.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's Invincible one. That's one of my favorite episodes. Okay, sorry. I got off track. So Art is gone. They're all trying to yell at Tom Hanks to get out. And he's just digging. They think they're so stupid. They hit something hard, and then they're immediately like, it's a crypt. It's a crypt. And then they're like, Rumsfeld, we found Walter. Like, that's a big leap in logic. But again, they've kind of...
There's a lot of those.
Josh, how does Tom Hanks come out of the building? Like, what happens there?
He's been digging down in the clay, right? And
yeah.
So he's all like gross and muddy. So I like to think that digging through all that created some sort of nice little skin barrier or something, right, Brett? Wouldn't that make sense? Because
protective barrier.
He hits this gas tank and everyone else gets out of the building, but then it starts like exploding and he's like presumed dead. But then he comes out slowly walking. Yeah. Which, is this an 80s thing too? Like partially blown up characters? Like we just had Winona Ryder and Heathers kind of like get partially blown up with that cigarette in her mouth. But he comes out like super disheveled. Brett, I loved his face makeup. Like his right eye is all messed up and it's really funny looking to see Tom Hanks like so hurt.
The music's great there too with the Western score. It's so good.
Do you guys agree though, like from Castaway to this movie to Forrest Gump, like whenever Tom Hanks is hurt really bad, those are always like the funniest moments. Like think of the coconut shell when he's like digging out his own tooth in Castaway, like and how funny that is.
That's not funny.
I think he's an underrated. I think we see it in the 80s and early 90s, and like I'm sure later on. I think he's an unbelievably underrated, like physical comedian. And guy, watch A League of Their Own. He's like freaking insanely incredible in that movie. I mean, he's just screaming and drunk the whole time, but it works because he's so good at it.
Yeah, how come when he does it, it's charming, but when I do it, it's sad and depraved?
It's because you're not coaching a women's baseball team at the same time.
I was missing the key component.
You didn't hit a home run in the World Series for the Cubs. I think he was a Cub. Shh, sorry, dog's getting antsy. So I guess that means it's time to wrap it up. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Ron Howard had just started a production company right around this time. This was one of his earlier movies for his production company. So,
which fun fact that I learned from Minty Comic Arts on YouTube. When Spielberg started Amblin, he had Joe Dante direct his first movie, Gremlins. And when Ron Howard started his production company, he had Joe Dante direct his first movie, The Burbs.
Oh, shout out to Minty. Minty's cool.
Love his content. Great YouTube channel.
So why isn't like Joe Dante like more established or whatever? Like that's pretty big Those are pretty big gigs.
All of his movies are kind of silly, right, Korey? I feel like you're a little bit closer to Joe Dante than the rest of us, but he's got like a very silly overtone to everything that he makes.
Except for The Howling.
Yeah, that was an early Joe Dante movie, but I think when he found his place, it was more in like semi-light comedies of like the 80s and 90s. Maybe with like a little bit of darkness involved, but you know, that I think The Howling and a couple like other small horror movies were like where he started, and then he went into like this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, he generally has this like light tone in a lot of the stuff he does.
It's weird. I mean, he's kind of done a lot of different genres. I mean, The Howling is considered like a classic. Inner Space, I think, is kind of underrated. Matinee was kind of underrated. I remember that movie as a kid. He started doing like Looney Tunes movies and stuff. I mean, Looney Tunes back in action. That's just bad.
If I'm being honest, though, I would think Joe Dante would do a Looney Tunes project eventually, considering like the shit that you see in something like this and Gremlins, you know, like you already have like a lot of that kind of comedy throughout.
That's true.
Oh, I remember the show Erie, Indiana. He directed several of those.
Oh, yes. Nice. Love Erie, Indiana.
Dr. Klopek was in episodes of Erie, Indiana, apparently, because I was looking through his IMDb. That's how they know each other.
Play the Erie, Indiana theme, editor.
Erie, Indiana, my home sweet home. Still don't believe me? You will.
If you're a stauncher, you can request us to do every episode of Erie, Indiana, which would be probably the nicest thing.
Not a stauncher.
Not a stauncher.
Anyway, what's it called? Rock Hard Viggo Mortensen? You can?
I think you could even be under that. I mean, you're the one that brought this up. Don't put me
that
on the
would be
spot.
Very cool, though. I would love to do an Erie, Indiana podcast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd be in for that.
I've heard it. My brother-in-law mentioned it. Other than that, I don't know what it is. So
you just have to be a real human being for $4.99 a month. You can commission an episode.
An episode, but not a show. That's more like you got to be.
An episode of Erie, Indiana would be very acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a season finale for spoilers.
You got to keep subscribing if you want to see the whole season.
Yeah, for real.
Open up bot accounts to get
bot accounts with real credit cards.
Just once a month, and then you get another episode. We'll just go one by one.
Just don't pull any of that Boston John crap.
Since we're talking about Patreon, Pappy, can I just mention
the
picture you chose for our header on Patreon is like one of the funniest freaking things I've ever
seen. Big Lebowski? Oh, no, it's amazing.
I'll suck your cock for $1,000.
Yes. It's Tara Reid, right?
Yeah, that's
very apt, Pappy.
Listen, all I'm saying, if you're a rock hard Viggo Mortensen, we can't say no to whatever you ask.
And we won't even
legally
charge you $1,000.
You always say this every episode, and I have to like shout you down from this, but okay.
Legally, we're obligated to do whatever you want for $25. It's a good deal.
Looks like the Klopeks are going to get out of this again. Tom Hanks has pretty much makes a joke about it, but he's basically going to go to prison for a while. I mean, he broke a lot of laws. And I think Josh mentioned it. If you want to like talk a little bit about the little temper tantrum he throws with the ambulance.
Yeah, so I think probably, maybe I'm wrong here, Brett, but probably one of the most famous parts of the movie is when Tom Hanks is like throwing this fit and he says something about it's not them, it's us.
It's us, yeah.
Remember what you were saying about people in the burbs, Art? People like Skip? People who mowed their lawn for the 800th time and then snap? Well, that's us! It's not them! That's us! We're the ones who are vaulting over the fences and peeking in through people's windows. We're the ones who are throwing garbage in the street and lighting fires. We're the ones who are acting suspicious and paranoid. We're the lunatics! Us! It's not them! It's us.
It's not the outsiders with the problem, it's us judgy insiders. And that seems like a good place to leave the movie. But in saying that, Tom Hanks flips out so bad, he just like wants to go to the hospital to get away from people.
Yeah.
So he like pouts his way into an ambulance, and then like in a huge, terrible, wrong move, Dr. Werner or whatever goes in there and tries to like kill him, even though like Tom Hanks had no idea about
cops all around.
Big mistake.
And cops all around, and he's like, that's one of my biggest qualms with the movie, you guys, is that like this doctor, he's not smart. He's not.
Well, it's kind of like what we mentioned earlier, though. Everyone here, if we had gone to the trouble to break into the house, we would have checked around. They don't do that. They have such a one-track mind on starting to dig. I think Dr. Werner thinks these guys are not idiots. They looked in the furnace. They saw the bones. I mean, he even says that.
Didn't he meet these people and see how dumb they were? Like, I just wanted some, like, maybe this is where the writer's strike comes into play, Brett, because I think a well-written script has some reason that he's a doctor and you respect him and fear him, but it's total just silly Looney Tune. He's got a big syringe that he's like, for like 2 minutes straight, trying to plunge into Tom Hanks' neck from like 1 foot away. That's kind of how we leave him.
I mean, yeah. It was. I would say the finale was very rushed. Like I thought it was going to be a lot longer.
Well, you brought up the alternate ending.
Listen, Ray, I'm really sorry.
Sometimes I get a little carried away.
So I don't know if this is like an IMDb fact or whatever, but apparently in like the first draft of the script, like Dr. Kolplek or whatever his name is succeeds in killing Tom Hanks in the ambulance, which is a weird choice. I mean, I'm with Josh. It doesn't seem like a very calculated move at this point, but like when I'm watching this movie, it's gone so silly. I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, it might not have been that thought out, but then again, he might have panicked, and then I think they were going to move again. I don't remember if it was in the alternate ending or in the original ending, but they just kind of kept moving from house to house. And this is where we haven't mentioned it, but he mentions that they killed the Naps, and they don't really explain why, but if you do a little extra research about what the Klopeks were doing, I think the consensus seems to be that they worked on weather modification science, which is why you see a lot of the lightning. That's why they chose that building, because it had that huge metal rod on the top.
It's Southland Tales all over again.
That's kind of Korey and Mikey mentioned earlier, the weirdness, like the supernatural feel you got. That is kind of supposed to be explained like that.
Oh, like when Tom Hanks is like stepping onto their property and it gets all windy.
Stepping on their thing, yeah. It's
that's such a cool, like so much of a cooler angle than seeing like Art at the table eating his cold meat. Like,
agreed.
I'd much rather the movie focus on that than it being this fleeting thing you have to dive deeper into.
That was the big problem that Brittany had with it, is just she was kind of waiting to see what was going on with the Klopeks, what their research was, what they did, and it just you don't really find out. But yeah, if you go to like the Burbs wiki or whatever, that's just kind of what
the Burbs wiki.
There's a wiki for everything.
The forums.
So what's the lesson learned from all this?
For the Klopeks, I would say introduce yourself to the neighbors. For everyone else,
the Patriot Act was justified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, George Bush watched this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, Josh. Do you have an idea? I mean, stay out of people's business, live your life. A boring life's better than...
Be suspicious of your foreigner neighbors.
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't like it because it's like this mirage of an ending. I don't know. There's nothing really tangible for me.
I didn't know about the writer's strike thing, but I think that really hurt the movie.
Yeah.
I think they intended to do the supernatural thing because that was a lot of fun in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then it just kind of really it's just all over the place. I don't know. It didn't feel cohesive enough.
It's like they didn't have one thing they could trust, so they threw a bunch of stuff at the wall or something.
And then landed on the most boring option. The weather, when he steps on the lawn, it's like, ooh, this is, I don't know, spooky. Like, otherwise, I totally forgot about that. That makes absolutely no sense out of context now. We got to go to the goddamn forums for the Burbs to understand what that 1 5-second scene was.
Yeah, what did they do in '89? Like,
So that's our movie. It ends happily-ish ever. I mean, I guess I'm no legal expert, but just because you end up being right and they try to kill you, do you still not have to go to jail for all the crimes you committed?
I don't think it's legal under any circumstance to blow up someone's house. Like, I don't think it's legal. Even if that person has killed someone, you still can't blow up their house, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Only if they live in an oil country.
Yeah, okay. I mean, again, I try not to ask too many questions, I guess, at the end, but... So that's it, and then we get the weird fourth wall break, which I didn't think was weird, but now that you mention it, it's just kind of weird.
God, I love this street.
I don't know if he goes to prison or not. I guess we'll have to find out in the Burbs, too. Still burbing it.
What?
That's the official... Is there a better name? There's a better name than that? You don't like Burbs 2, still bourbon it?
Ba 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 ba, still bourbon it.
There we go. 2. All right, so let's do some final thoughts as we're getting into almost an hour and 40 minutes.
I got one. Tom Hanks' character, his name is Ray, right, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I've called him Tom Hanks the last 40 times, so I wouldn't have asked me.
That's fine. But I don't know, man. I kept thinking, maybe it's just because I have seen this scene within the last few months. I keep thinking when I hear him say Ray, or when I hear someone say it, it's right here, Ray. It's looking at me.
Oh, my Ghostbusters fan know what I'm talking
He's
about.
an ugly little spud, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I think of Ray, I think of Dan Aykroyd, because he played Ray Stantz and Ray Selinsky in Tommy Boy, but...
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Is this movie better than Ghostbusters?
Seriously? Let's go ahead and let's go the same order we did for the opening question. Korey?
This is Korey. This movie is a no. I fucking hated this movie. I am reminded sometimes why I don't like comedies, and it's good to be reminded of that because it starts to slip away from me when I watch movies I'm nostalgic for. I did not think this movie was funny, Brett. Don't take this as an attack on you. You didn't make this movie, so don't take that personally. But I didn't like it, right? So this movie has things that I should like. It has actors I like. It's just like the story and the execution. I ask myself too many questions as it goes on, like how come people aren't reacting a certain way to a certain situation? That one actually comes up a lot in this movie. And I'm more bothered by it than entertained. That art dude, fucking hated him, man. Didn't like his character. And I in a lot of ways we're not supposed to, but I didn't find him funny either or endearing. You know, Tom Hanks is a great actor, but I don't like the movie. So I don't like the story that they're telling. So that doesn't quite save it for me. So big no for me.
This is actually not a movie that the first time I watched, it's not a movie that I would consider just being ridiculously funny. I just liked it. So, I knew we were in trouble early on when you said you hated one of the main characters, the guy who talks the most. But who's up next? Mikey.
I'll give it the lightest of yeses. It's fine. It's serviceable enough. I wish it dealt more with like the supernatural stuff that we were talking about. I think the writer's strike really hurt it. Didn't know that was a thing happening during this movie, but it makes a lot of sense now after talking about it. It's just kind of all over the place and not very coherent, and like it's, I don't know, its tone, I guess, but I think it's funny enough for how disjointed it feels and stuff. I was laughing, I guess, enough to, I mean, I don't have to watch it again ever, but it was like fun for a one-time watch. So light yes.
Cool. Josh?
Yeah, that really opened my eyes too, Brett, when you talked about the writer's strike. And it's like, if the writer is out and can't play the role of like coach to the actors, then like their personalities really like have to come to the forefront to create something good. And in the case of art, Rick Ducommun, is that how you say that?
Tutankhamun. I'm just kidding, I have no idea.
Watching him in this movie is just like your least favorite / least talented basketball player on the court, just taking every shot, just ball hogging it all the time. I can't agree with Korey more, just how much this guy ruined the movie for me, and I hate it because not to steal your segment, Brett, but this guy is deceased, so I feel like we're talking poorly of the dead here, but that role just really bothered me, and the lack of like writing, I think, exacerbated it. And just before I give this a no, because I should give this a hard nostalgic yes, Brett, we have a really good friend, CJ, who has quoted this movie to me since like the 5th grade, and it just goes to show like how I wasn't really blessed with like friends with really good movie tastes growing up. Like him and Nick Harrell just loved this movie for so many years. It's just a no.
And best friend Drew.
No, Drew has like a pretty decent movie taste, but not CJ.
What quotes were he saying?
I don't know. The only thing I can remember is like the Klopex.
Oh.
They had
pizza dude.
They had neighbors in their neighborhood that they compared to the Klobex, and they like to pull neighborhood hijinks. So I guess it kind of made sense for them, but still just a pretty stupid movie. Yep. Sorry, Brett.
That's okay. I didn't make it. It's no Ghostbusters. Pappy?
This is a very serviceable movie. I think it achieves the tone that it's going for. It's a little bit all over the place, but my biggest gripe at the end of the day with it is that there's nothing you can get from the Burbs that isn't done better in a different movie. There's better young Hanks. There's better horror comedies. There's, if you want this like actually straight, there's like Rosemary's Baby, which is one of the best horror movies of all time, which kind of has a similar plot, but this is more of a spoof of it. It's a very, very soft no, but I will say that as a family movie, this actually might be a really good spooky movie because it's not really that scary. It's a good way to show kids the horror genre, expose them to that without being too scared. There's nothing, objectable about it in 2021 eyes. So I think it could be a fun family movie, but man, I have no reason to ever watch The Burbs again. So for that reason, a very soft no, Brett. And also because you gave Evil Dead 2 a no. That did factor into my decision a little bit.
Yeah, but, he gave Clifford 4 stars and called it a masterpiece, but that's all right.
I would rather watch Clifford 1,000 times
yeah, I know.
than watch The Burbs
Hey, look for that
10
chocolate.
times.
Well,
Look at me like a human boy.
Right,
I love spite ratings on this podcast. It's one of my favorite things.
The best kind.
Then you should change your rating on Letterboxd. A 3-star movie should not get a
The
no
thing
on
of
a
it is,
podcast.
the thing of it is like, for what it is, it's good. But what I'm saying is like the opportunity cost of spending 100 minutes in the Burbs. I can pick 10 movies that do all the things the Burbs do that I'd rather watch, which is the problem. Cabin in the Woods,
Family, bro.
Rosemary's Baby, both Addams Families.
Both Addams Families.
Both Addams Families.
The first one.
A League of
the
Their
second one's
Own.
even better.
Okay, now you're just picking Tom Hanks movies. Okay.
Okay, but I'm talking about young Hanks. So, okay, I got halfway there, but we should move on.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to give this a yes. I like this movie. I enjoy it. The physical comedy makes me laugh. I didn't hate Rick Ducommun like everyone else did. I mean, yeah, he was a little annoying, but I actually thought the scene where he's sitting there eating all the food is really funny, and then he goes and eats more food. I thought that was kind of funny. Bruce Dern cracks me up in this movie. Young Tom Hanks is good to me. I enjoyed it. I think Henry Gibson's really funny. I wish he was in the movie a little more. I thought Brother Ruben was funny. It's just, yeah, solid yes for me. I enjoy it, so that's what I got. All right, so this trivia probably won't last very long because I don't foresee you guys being very good at it, and I didn't mean that in the nicest way possible. No, it's just one of those things where I feel like it's going to be. This is actually kind of hard. So, the order I have for the longest on the schneid is Korey with Hedwig.
Oh, opposite.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
Longest.
Josh. Okay, no, Korey host. This is most of the least recent host. The list that I sent over, because Korey traded a pick.
Yeah, I won trivia recently.
Okay, so then it's going to go. Josh is the oldest on the schneid, right? With Inglourious Basterds.
Correct. Yep.
Mikey with Thief. Pappy with The Ring, but then. Okay, so order is going to be first with the least advantage. So it's going to be Korey, Pappy, Mikey, Josh. Okay, so I have a list of, I don't know, maybe 35 of considered the best or greatest TV neighbors of all time. So for the advantage, which is going to go to Josh, everyone gets to, if you can't name a character, you get to name a show that you think a character is on. Like you can't quite think of the name. That's like your one freebie you get. You miss one, you're out. And Josh, for his advantage, he gets that one freebie and he also gets a pass. Oh! So it's very, very stacked in his favor. So one miss. All right, well, let's do, one miss, you're out. It's an hour and 48 minutes. We're just one miss, you're out. I was always going to do that, so.
I like it.
Just to save time, I don't know if anyone will guess it. The rules in this are kind of weird about what's a neighbor and what's not. I will tell you that Joey and Chandler are not on this list, so don't guess them. So.
Good clarification.
Korey, you are up.
So is this list called like best TV neighbors, meaning like characters that people like, or like
yes, classic, not necessarily, but just classic TV character neighbors. Like some of them are annoying, some of them are great.
Right, so they might not be like the people in the show might not like them, but they're still like the best to the audience.
They're like indelible, you know.
Yeah, so you'd be on the list, but aside from you, because you're real, I'm going first, right?
Yep.
Urkel.
You can use your freebie, or you can try to guess, but once if you miss one, you're out.
He already guessed.
Urkel.
That is correct. So, Pappy.
Kramer.
Kramer is correct. That's gonna be Mikey's guess. Mikey, you're
That's
up.
a good one. I wasn't thinking of Kramer, but that's a good one. I'm gonna say Ned Flanders.
That is correct.
Nice.
You guys are doing much better than I thought.
Can one show have multiple answers?
Yes.
Newman.
Yes. Incorrect.
What? Pass.
Fair.
He's a building neighbor, not a direct neighbor.
Let him use the pass.
All right, that's fine.
Back to me.
Yeah.
Three's Company neighbor guy. I can say the show, right?
Yeah, that's your freebie. If that's what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Three's Company. Larry Dallas.
Larry.
And there's no more. I did not include landlords in case somebody else wanted to name a Three's Company.
So no Mr. Roper. Okay.
Right. And I was gonna be a little, give you some leeway because again this list is really weird. So, Pappy.
So I get a freebie to name the show, right?
If you want, I mean, you could. If you
The
think
Honeymooners.
That is correct. The Nortons. Josh. Josh still has his freebie.
I think it's my turn.
Oh, Mikey's up. Yeah.
Dale Gribble from King of the Hill.
He is not on here.
Damn.
Really?
I didn't make the list. I mean, I made the list, but I didn't make the list.
How many are on the list?
30?
Okay, yikes.
Sorry, Mikey.
So, wow.
I only know animated characters. My mind is blank for everything else.
I have 2 answers, but I got to go with a more mainstream one, I think. Barney from Flintstones?
Yep. Let's see if they have this as I just have the Rubble, so.
Barney and Betty. Barney.
You're fine. I have the Rubbles. You're fine.
Okay.
And you still
I
have.
thought you were daring me to name both.
No. All right, so Korey.
He's daring you, Billy.
You do not have any freebies left.
Oh, yeah.
You got some time. This is hard.
It's me, right?
Yeah.
Paul Pfeiffer.
What show?
Wonder Years.
Wrong.
Ooh. Been
Sorry.
watching a lot of Wonder Years.
Yeah.
Getting ready for that remake?
It's already out. I haven't watched it yet.
Pat?
Is it me?
Yeah. Have you? You don't have any freebies left.
The Mertzes
I
from
knew you were
I Love
gonna get.
Lucy.
I knew you were gonna get the Mertz. Yep.
The who?
Fred and Ethel. Josh,
Has anyone said any Tim Allen related answers?
No.
Because I think Home Improvement had the guy you could only see his face, or you couldn't see his face, Wilson.
Yeah.
Nice. On the 2 lists I saw, Wilson was number 1 on the one list and number 2 on the other list. So,
Yes.
Dr. Wilson from Home Improvement. Yes.
I've seen that show, so much of that show.
Oh, yeah.
Wilson, that's his name on the show?
Yep. Junior.
His arc
dumb.
actually deteriorates as it progresses, but in hindsight, it's pretty funny.
He's dead. Very sad. Korey's out. Pap, you are in, and I believe you have used your freebie, so you got to get one.
It's just me and Josh, right?
Yep.
Rhoda Morgenstern from the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Nailed it. Nice.
Nice.
Josh, you still have one freebie, I believe.
Yeah.
Use it. You got nothing, Josh. Use it.
I'm trying to think of just a really popular show that had neighbors in it. Oh, can you say the actress's name?
Maybe I'll.
No.
Okay, I'll use
No,
my
because
freebie.
that counts as the show thing. What?
Kaylee Kuwako's character from Big Bang Theory.
You don't know her name?
No. No. Penny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Very, very nice.
Wow.
I did not know how I was going to rule on that, but you made it easy for me. Happy?
So is that my freebie or not?
No, you got it.
Yeah.
Marshall from How I Met Your Mother.
No, because they all live in the same house.
Fuck. Yes, they do. Sorry.
Oh,
He moves down later.
Dang.
Damn.
So,
Curse Asian
I'm out.
Pat.
No, I learned my lesson.
Does Josh got to prove it, or does he prove it with his freebie?
prove it, Josh.
Frasier, the show. Does that have a good neighbor?
No.
State Farm, like a good neighbor.
Frasier has his own floor. Do you think he's living with commoners on the same floor as him?
Count it for State
stop.
Farm.
Cheers.
Josh, stop. Just stop.
Mash.
You.
Mash.
Josh, you're getting so far. They live in freaking tents.
Yeah, the neighbors, the Vietnamese,
Korean.
Or, yeah.
All right, well, Josh, you win. All right. I mean, that was getting very ugly. You trying to prove that. So you win. Congratulations.
I'm glad I took Josh to the wire there.
Well, he had a lot of advantages there. we all let him have. So that was.
I was going to
nice
say
of you.
Quagmire on my next go
Yes,
round.
I have 3. You could have named 3 different Family Guy characters.
Brett, thank you for
Who
the
are they- yeah.
treatment, though, man. I
Wait,
haven't
there-
seen that since.
3 of the 30 are Family Guy characters.
Whoa.
Yep.
Yeah, who else is like the low-hanging fruit? Who should we have said?
Jeffersons on All in the Family.
Sure.
Bewitched. Let's see. Mr. Feeney.
Oh, my God. How did I
that's a
not
good
get
one.
Mr. Feeney?
Right.
I'm not
Mr.
a 90s kid anymore.
Mr. Wilson. The Barones and Everybody Loves Raymond. Skippy. Let's see. Mr. Heckles. He was in 1 season. How about Kimmy Gibbler, guys?
Full House.
Full House.
Yeah. Let's see. Mr. Bentley, he was famous in Jeffersons. I didn't watch it. You got Lenny and Squiggy for Laverne Shirt. Eddie Haskell. I didn't watch Married with Children, but Marcy Darcy.
Oh, yeah.
You said Rhoda Morgenstern, but there was also Phyllis Pappy.
She was a landlord, though. So I
Oh,
don't know
was
if that
she?
would
Okay.
count. Yeah.
Squidward, Tentacles.
Urkel
Brett.
had to have been up there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
somebody
he-
guessed him. Somebody guessed him.
No, I guessed him, but was he like number 1?
Top 5 in both lists, I'd say. Rose from 2.5 Men, and then you made me sad when you said Paul. The answer was Winnie Cooper for Wonder Years.
Yeah, she moved in like season 2, so like.
Those are all the
That's
good
not-
ones. I mean, there's a couple other ones, but Josh, what?
Why did you not include Friends? I don't understand why you specifically.
I was trying to stick to the rule where the main characters don't count, but like Kramer really threw a wrench in that, even though he wasn't a main character like the first 2 seasons, like the first 7 episodes. But I was just kind of trying not to, because you spend time in both. You're rarely ever in Kramer's apartment. So I don't
did
know.
Friends have any right answers? Because they have a bunch of other neighbors.
Mr. Heckles, he's your downstairs
Dude.
neighbor.
He looks like Bruce Hearn.
Yeah, he does. All right, so yep, we're just might get in under 2 hours. So why don't we kick it to Spoiler Man and give Josh some time?
Make sure to check out Korey's podcast, Big Dumb Movie.
Josh, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, we are back, and it's time to kick it to Josh to find out if we're going to be back to normal or staying spooky.
It's tough because I think this rides the line, but I think it might just be spooky enough. It's a little bit of a murder mystery. So does that count, you think, Pap? How spooky?
Can you edit it before Halloween?
It's a real question.
So we'll see if this is spooky or not. But I've been watching some classic movies lately, trying to catch up on some stuff, and I watched Double Indemnity. I'm sure a bunch of you guys have seen that movie.
I haven't, but I want to see it really bad.
But it made me really like Edward Robinson. He's the guy who, like, not to spoil it, but he lights a match famously in that movie. But I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I really like this movie called The Stranger from 1946. I want you guys to watch it.
Ooh.
My last movie that I picked was Inglourious Bastards, about people pretending to be Germans in the war, and this is Germans pretending to be Americans kind of right after the war. So I like how that kind of fits too thematically. So
This
that's
is
my
the
pick.
oldest. This is the oldest movie in spoilers history.
It's hard to believe.
Orson Welles, Josh.
Yeah, Orson Welles movie. The Stranger, 1946. We're going way
Brittany's
back.
not going to be happy.
Have her just make her watch it. Maybe she'll like it.
Cool.
It might feel a little more modern than you think.
I'll like it. I'm sure I will. All right. Well, that was the Burbs, and thanks for spending some time with us. And Pap, you got any announcements before we end it?
So it may or may not be the end of spooky spoilers, but 5th year in a row, boys. That's a long time to do any one thing. So thank you for listening. If you've been listening for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or if this is your first episode of Spooky Spoilers, just thank you. We appreciate the listen. Like Stevie says, any listen is a good listen.
All right.
For sure.
Thanks, everybody. That was spoilers.
Special thank you to our patrons:
Brother Brian.
The incubus, the succubus,
Nick.
mutilations.
Matt Troll.
Human sacrifice to Beelzebub, is that it?
David.
That's one of the theories, yeah.
We're all peaceful, relaxed, so cool.
The Meg.
Oh, I can't believe you're still bringing that up.
Nurse Stacy.
So, this is your relaxing when you get home, huh?
Druid King.
Listen to your wife. Who listens to their wife?
Brother Ellis.
It's over, pal.
If you'd like to request an episode, hear your name read by Spoiler Man, or even just help us make podcasts, please check us out on patreon.com/spoilerspodcast.
It's over, pal. That was Spooky Spoilers.